my name is Wesley Bear, and thank you for joining me tonight. We have very little to talk about tonight and absolutely no time limit. So let's just rush into it, shall we? Our main story tonight, college. The only place where choking down ramen noodles while studying for a test at 2 in the morning is a normal thing. College allows for students to become their own person. They are on their own and they get to make their own decisions. From deciding what frat to join, to what intramural to play, to what BuzzFeed online survey they're going to take next. College is its own experience, and for years lawmakers have made programs that help high school students getting a head start on their college experience. Programs like College in the Schools, Project Lead the Way, and Advanced Placement can be very beneficial to high school students trying to get a head start in the tough road of college. A road that, as we all know, has a godforsaken number of potholes, traffic jams, and roadkill. But one program that stands above all the others is the PSEO, or the Post-Secondary Enrollment Option.
Minnesota has had a history of promoting student and parental choice laws. And post-secondary enrollment options, which you've heard about today, are one of those options. Technically, PSEO, as it's known, includes those courses that are taught on the college campuses, and we do call those PSEO, and it also includes College in the Schools. Those are the courses that are taught in the high schools. The data is clear. Students who take dual credits receive they graduate at higher rates from high school. More of them go to college. They graduate quicker with higher GPAs, lower student debt.
That's right. The PSEO allows high school students to get an advance on college courses. So by the time they enter college, they can transfer credits, allowing them to lighten the load of college classes they have to take, or even being able to graduate early. Now you'd think that high schools everywhere would be all for a program like this, considering that it helps families save thousands of dollars each year in college expenses and allows students to get a head start on their college experience. But you would also think that a topic this important wouldn't be discussed by some dude in a basement. But you know, look. Yeah, this is just a basement and we're just some dudes. This is kind of pathetic. Anyway, now it's no secret that a high school can be one of the most stressful times in a person's life. There's less stress in arguing with your spouse about what paint you want to use for your newly redesigned living room. You know, I know you want purple, Sharon, but I want turquoise. Turquoise looks better, and it sounds cooler to say. I want to... You're tearing this family apart, Sharon! You're tearing us apart! Anyway, the point is that no matter how many high school musicals come out, no one can ever truly know how crazy high school is until they've gone through it. So whatever students can do to make things a little easier for themselves in high school, they're going to want to do that. That's why when I was in high school, I always played tag while riding a horse. It was so much easier. And for some reason, nobody really wants to play with me anymore. I don't know why. As discussed earlier, the PSEO gives high school students a taste of college in the real world, which to a point is extremely beneficial, because very few schools offer courses on real life things, such as how to pay taxes, how to cook anything outside of a microwave, or how to not have emotional breakdowns after every single social interaction. Sharon! Most high schools just teach you the Pythagorean theorem and then send you on your way. You know, it's kind of like putting you on a plane and saying, if your parachute doesn't work, bring it back and we'll give you a new one. Toodaloo! But some have argued that by getting ahead in your college experience, you miss out on the high school experience. An experience that, while arguably is the worst, it includes acne, confused hormones, and awful school seminars, nevertheless, it is an experience that is socially necessary, because some schools view the PSEO as more of a curse and then a blessing. Another potential problem of the PSEO is that not all schools can implement this program. You see, schools get a certain amount of funding from their state based on how many students live in that particular school district. More students equals more funding, which makes sense in theory, but doesn't make as much sense in practice. Kind of like how the idea of a larger ramp would equal more fun. A system like this works really well for large schools, but not so much for the smaller ones. One such school is St. Francis in Minnesota. They have been finding creative ways to discourage students from taking the opportunities that the PSEO offers. Ways that sound like something out of a Scorsese movie, but more like a movie he wrote when he was younger, like 10 years old or something. Just because that's how childish these tactics are. Enjoy that graphic, and you enjoy it. It was a lot of fun to make. You're going to enjoy that. These enticements include having free parking closer to the school, being able to eat off campus, and access to an exclusive study lounge, which I can only imagine is a study lounge with golden bookshelves, as well as voice-activated computers that respond with the voice of Ryan Gosling or Scarlett Johansson, depending on your personal preference. And last but not least, personal butlers that look like Alpha 5 from Power Rangers. Now the bad news is that this is only scratching the surface of the problem, because those students in St. Francis, they have it lucky compared to students in some other areas. At least kids in St. Francis get a study lounge, while students at Fulda High School, they get to deal with stuff like this.
I have been judged solely on my choice and cast as an outsider. I do not feel welcome at my school every day. I do not feel like a normal student. Other students have said these same things, and they feel they are being denied resources because of their choice to seek higher education through PSEO.
Now that is just awful. The only person who should feel that unwelcome to anything is Kanye West at a Taylor Swift concert. Kanye, I love you, man, but have you heard T Swift Shake It Off? I mean, Taylor, you give me goosebumps, babe. You give me goosebumps. And this, once again, it highlights the problem of large schools versus small schools. If a student living in a larger urban area had to leave school, it wouldn't be much of a problem. Because in most cities, there's a coffee shop with free Wi-Fi where a student could go to study on almost every corner. In a town like Fulda, however, there are more parades dedicated to a gosh darn wood duck than there are coffee shops. There are simply no places for a student to go in town. But you're probably thinking, well, if it's such a small town, then why don't they just go home quickly during that hour? And to that, I answer, you know what? I don't need your attitude, Sharon. It's only Wednesday. I can't deal with this right now. Anyway, watch this clip of the Fulda student describing her daily commute.
I am not allowed in the school building for 2 separate hours per day. Even though I have co-curricular activities before school 2 days a week, I do not have a first hour class, so I have to leave the school for first hour. I arrive at the school around 8:45. I am not allowed to go to my locker until the bell rings at 8:53. I am forced to sit on a bench outside of the office. I have to leave the school building again around 1:25. I have 1 class period out of the building, and then I am to go back to school around 2 o'clock. My final class period ends at 3 o'clock. I lose 5 hours running home. My grade average has dropped because of this. Once an A++ student, my grades have dropped to an A/B+ range. Also, because I am not at school 100% of the school day, I am not aware of all the opportunities that arise at my school. I was unaware of a scholarship opportunity recently and couldn't apply because I had missed the deadline.
Do you remember that one scene in Forrest Gump where Forrest runs back and forth across America? He is the only person who should have to travel that much. Also, I'm not sure if anyone's noticed, but a lot of this story takes place right here in Minnesota. A place that looks like this a majority of the year. And it's also worth mentioning that there have been multiple occasions in this winter alone where the wind chill was lower than -20 degrees. That's the type of temperatures that make people like Mitch McConnell try to argue that global warming is not a thing. And things get even more crazy, because unlike the PSEO, which is a state law, kicking a student out of a school for a reason like this is not protected by the law whatsoever, as this one parent puts it.
We have talked to the Minnesota Department of Education. Several parents have called. There's nothing they can do because the statute doesn't say that a principal can't kick a kid out of class. So my daughter jokingly said I should just pick a fight because then I could get in-school suspension and I could stay. And that is not how we want our children to perceive people who are supposed to be helping them.
And this whole issue circles back to the funding problem that we mentioned earlier. You know, the one that ended up with someone having a really bad day? You know what, hey, maybe if we watch it really fast, it'll make it better. Yep, that made it better. Now back to our regularly scheduled Slime Fest. The Minnesota State Legislature created this program back in 1985 to challenge students and help prepare them for post-secondary education. The PSEO statute requires school districts to provide information to students and their parents by March 1st of any given year. Not only that, but it later goes on to state that students have until May 30th to have their schedules approved by the school for the program. And if you've been paying any attention at all to what we've been talking about, I bet you can guess where this is about to go. Instead of giving out information to the students on March 1st, as is required by the law, nothing was provided by the school until April 12th of that year. And then full students were told that they had to enroll by April 13th, the very next day, instead of the May 30th, as is also given to them by the law. Now, this is not a decision that can or should be made overnight. Those decisions are best saved for whether or not you should buy that new Nickelback album. No, by the way, the answer is always no. No Nickelback. Basically, students who did enroll in the PSEO were cheated out of nearly 3 months of possible preparation time. I mean, how would you feel if you were cheated out of your 3 months of summer vacation and you only had overnight? I think it would look something like this. Yeah, I think that looks pretty accurate. The point I'm trying to get across here is that something like this isn't just mean, but it's also downright illegal. So you may be wondering, how is this still a thing? Well, unfortunately, it's impossible to read people's minds and find out their true motivations. If this were possible, then my mom would have been able to figure out what I was thinking whenever I made this face when I was 5 years old. Oh, little me, what was I thinking? The lesson we need to learn from all of this is that no matter how good a program or plan sounds, it's never perfect. And that's okay. But what's not okay is when nothing is done to fix it. And that's where you come in. And I really hope there are some of you still out there who stuck all the way through this. And in which case, congratulations, because myself, I barely made it through. As we speak, state lawmakers are attempting to pass legislation to prevent schools from kicking students out for no reason, which is a really good start, but it still needs your support. All it takes is a couple of phone calls to your representative. Tell them that this is an issue that must be addressed. Together we can solve a problem that affects so many students in our state and even in your own backyard. What we need to do is we need to get the word out. You need to call your legislator. You need to get your parents to call their legislator. You need to get your baker, your banker, and your candlestick maker to call their legislator. The only person you don't need to call is Sharon. Yeah, that's right, Sharon. I'm not done with you yet. Because the only way that things are going to change is if we all take the initiative and truly care about the issue. Thank you for joining me. I'm Wesley Beeren, and we will never be doing this again.